What is up? What is up, everybody? It's Spin Doc here, going solo just for today. Gonna have Sosa back tomorrow, and we'll be with you throughout the NCAA tournament. After a one-day rest, one day off with no college basketball. Whew, I'm glad we're through that. This will be the last day for a while that until the Sunday before the national championship that we have no college basketball going on. So good thing. So here with a kind of an overview of some of the regions for those of you that listened to the spaces on Sunday right after the brackets got released. You heard some of my initial thoughts. Now that I've had a day and a half or so to have it kind of marinate, gonna kind of think about do I really think what I thought back then with my initial reactions, looking deeper into the metrics, looking deeper into the situation, and going to give you kind of an overview. And then do have two free plays for tonight. And gonna give you a kind of a brief overview of the games that are going on this evening with the first four or what's used to be called the first four in the NCAA tournament, because that kicks off this evening. We also have NIT basketball kicking off this evening. And one thing that you're going to hear from me throughout this whole tournament time is that some of the minor tournaments, some of the lesser tournaments, NIT, but also the CBI, and coming up here, the Crown tournament, a couple of the other ones, those actually have a lot of value from a betting perspective. Reason being is because all the attention is focused on the big dance. So all the attention focused on the NCAA tournament. And so what you get is you get where you can find some value in lines with two unknown teams playing each other. So that's kind of an overview of what we're going to cover today. Don't expect it to be super long. Just wanted to give some initial thoughts on the bracket and then a few free plays for tonight. So going to the bracket itself, and like I said, I know for those of you that joined on Spaces, you got a lot of my initial thoughts and a great discussion, a lot of great takes for the initial thoughts on the bracket. But we'll start with the East here. And we have first in the East over here, you can see we have number 1 Duke, number 2 Alabama, number 3 Wisconsin, number 4 Arizona. I said on Sunday that this is Duke's bracket to lose. I haven't changed my thoughts on that. I know that Florida is the sexy pick for a lot of people, and I'll cover them a little bit more when we get to their region. But look, this is Duke's bracket to lose. I personally believe this is Duke's tournament to lose. Duke is the most complete team in the tournament, and I hate saying that because I'm not a Duke fan in the slightest. I'm just not a huge fan of Duke. So, anyways, it pains me to say it, but they are the most complete team in the NCAA tournament, especially if with Cooper Flagg coming back, as most expect him to be, then there isn't a team in this bracket, in this region, in the East region, that really scares me with Duke unless you happen to catch them on an off night. I'm going through some of the top seeds. I don't think Alabama plays good enough defense. I don't think Alabama is a willing enough defensive team. I don't think that Wisconsin has enough size and athleticism. And I don't think that Arizona shoots the three well enough or consistently enough. And Duke's bigs and their length down low can really handle the Arizona bigs, which would then leave Caleb Love out there on the perimeter against some very athletic Duke guards. And I've said this for probably about a month now, is that when you make Arizona a jump shooting team, they are much less effective. They're much better offensively when they can go inside, outside, run guys in the post, and then run Love off of screens to get going to the rim. That's not going to happen against this Duke team. So just projecting potential matchups, none of the three other top teams in that region are set up, I believe, personnel-wise, to beat Duke. And that's, again, nothing more than a statement of fact. And this is, again, coming from a non-Duke fan. So elsewhere in the region, teams that I think that could surprise, I actually have a bracket where I have St. Mary's going to the Sweet 16. I might even be picking them if they happen to get matched up with Alabama. Alabama has really, really disappointed me lately, and they've disappointed me on the defensive side. Their defensive efficiency over the last month has just been absolutely horrendous. And, yeah, you can say you can argument of the conference that they play in and the good offensive teams that they played. But when you go and you look at their opponent floor percentage, which floor percentage is the percentage of time that an opponent gets at least a point on an offensive possession, it's not good. It's especially not good away from home. They're 222nd overall in the country to begin with. Away from home in any capacity, their 49.4% for the season goes up to 52.4%. Where that would rank is among teams like the Citadel, Toledo, Stetson, Idaho, South Dakota. You see where I'm going with this. The Tide, to me, just have, especially over the last three weeks or so, regardless of opponent, have seemingly just abandoned defense and just want to go down and play offense. I've also started to see some of the bad habits that I saw with Sears last year, where when things start to go south, he tries to play hero ball and tries to get it all back for them. And it's noble, but it doesn't win at this time of the season. In their last few games, their floor percentage, 62.8%, meaning they allow points on 3 out of every 5 possessions. And yeah, some of that is because they played Florida. And they played Florida a few times. I get that. But you go and you look at some of their other results, and you see that teams that don't put up that much offensively have done so against the Tide. You see that Mississippi State, decent offensive team, but Mississippi State put up 111 in regulation, mind you. Kentucky has put up, and Kentucky's a better offensive team, has put up almost 100 multiple times. Texas, who there's obviously arguments to be made if they should be in the tournament or not, but I'll skip that part because they are, and we are where we are, put up 100. Arkansas put up 85, 81. I mean, I can just keep going. Vanderbilt put up almost 90. So where I'm going with this is that the Tide just try to get into shootouts and they just try to outscore people. And that doesn't work against a St. Mary's team that has both the length and the defensive prowess to at least slow them down. And St. Mary's is a team where if you are going to play defense for a full shot clock and you are going to defend with them, they are rather limited offensively. But if you're just going to be just straight trying to ball hawk and ball watch and give them easy baskets and then just hope to go down and just match them shot for shot, that doesn't work against the Gales. And that hasn't worked all year against them. So I actually have St. Mary's getting by Vandy in the first round. I might even be taking them to cover. And I also have St. Mary's in a number of brackets beating Alabama. Defense at this point in the year is just so damn important. And the Tide have just refused to play defense for the better part of the last month and a half. And so at this point in the year, when you run up against an uncommon opponent, meaning one you haven't seen before, especially the scenario that they would get with St. Mary's, where you're getting them off of only one day of prep, it's a tough thing to try to just go shot for shot with a team that's that long and that and that good defensively. The Tide 59th in overall average height. They do obviously have some length, but St. Mary's matches them pretty well. They're 30th in average size. They also have Saxon, who's obviously 6'10" and just a monster down low. They have multiple 6'8" kids. They also can bring a couple 7-footers off the bench. They have the size and the length to match match up with Alabama getting to the rim. And when you make Alabama a jump shooting team and you make them shoot on the move, they're far less effective. You saw Auburn did that in Tuscaloosa and made them chuck on the move. So if St. Mary, assuming St. Mary's gets by Vandy, which I think that they will, I can very, very easily see an upset there. The other one that I think is built for an upset is BYU VCU. I think that VCU is the exact type of team that can give a team like BYU fits. I said this on the spaces. I said this. I've said this actually to anybody who will listen. Is that the VCU defense, number one in the country in defending jump shots. They're number one in defending overall effective field goal percentage. They're number four in defending 2-point field goals. But any mid-range to 3-point jump shot, all those together, they're number one in the country. And what is BYU as a team? BYU is a jump shooting team. The way that you beat VCU defensively is you get to the rim. They're very prone to fouling. VCU for the season, 263rd in free throws attempted over field goals attempted. They foul a lot. They give their opponents over 20 free throws a game. It's worse on the road. But the problem with BYU is that's not who they are. They are 15th in the country in percentage of shots that are threes. They don't get to the line. They're 270th in free throws attempted over field goals attempted. This is a game where I'm going to study a little bit more because I think I got it, but there are many, many paths here for me for a BYU just being stymied from shooting jump shots. And when they don't get to the free throw line, especially, those are the games that they have lost. And those are the games, and a few of them they have lost very, very badly. One example is Cincinnati is a very similar type of defensive team. They're not as good as VCU. This was back in early February. BYU only got to the line 11 times against them, tried to be jump shooters, shot almost 33s, and they lost by 18. Another example now a much better team would be Houston. Houston with their length and their jump shooting defense obviously smacked BYU by almost 30. And I mean, the list just goes on. Texas Tech is another one. Texas Tech, even in that game, BYU got to the free throw line 21 times and they still lost at home. So teams that can defend the jump shot are teams that give BYU fits, and that's what VCU's defense is custom made to do. Elsewhere, I said it on spaces. I'll say it again. Wisconsin, Montana, giving a strong look at an over here. Points. These are two offenses that can put up points in bunches. Montana's offense is a lot better than people think, and not just because they play in the Big Sky. This offense can put up points. They're 13th in the country in effective field goal percentage. They're top 50 in 3-point percent, top 55, I should say, in 3-point percentage. They get to the line very well. And you have a Wisconsin team who obviously has multiple jump shooters on their team and who can have some issues with not forcing turnovers, because the way to really beat Montana is their guards aren't that strong. Their guards can score, but they're not that strong with the ball overall. Wisconsin just 331st in forcing turnovers. Haven't really forced a ton of turnovers even lately either. So I'm looking for a potential shootout with those two teams. I don't really think that Montana has the guns to win that game, but I am looking at a lot of points in that one. Other teams from that region, I think that Liberty is going to be a sexy 12-5 upset. It's going to be a sexy pick. Personally, I'm not sure that I see it. I think that Oregon has enough length and enough wing athleticism to get out on Liberty's shooters. They do tend to rely on the three. So I think that a lot of people are going to see that and are going to think that. Dana Altman in the first round of the NCAA tournament has actually been quite good. Especially when you give him almost a week to prepare for an opponent. So I'm not really looking at Oregon, at Liberty as an upset pick. And then elsewhere, Arizona, I actually think has a chance to absolutely smack the living hell out of Akron. Reason being is because Akron doesn't have the size to match up with Arizona down low, so they can run a lot of their stuff and then run Love off of screens. And Akron is another team like Alabama that has just decided to forego defense. They've had multiple games where they've given up 90. Now, granted, in some of those they've scored 95 to 100, but they've just decided to forego defense. So those are kind of my general leans and looks for the East region. On to the West, and you have number one Florida, who is going to be a huge chalky pick as a national champion. I understand why. Number two, St. John's. Number three, Texas Tech. And number four, Maryland. When I look at this bracket, or this region, I should say, I mean, it's hard to pick against Florida. I understand why people are doing it. I have them in the Final Four of multiple brackets, and I can't really argue with the point. I saw some goofy take on X the other day where somebody was like, if you take Florida to make the championship game, then you're a casual. No, you're fucking smart, because they're playing phenomenally and they're one of the most complete teams in the whole tournament. Stop that. Like what's not casual then? Like would it be to take like Texas Tech? Would it be to take like Memphis? Like, I don't understand. So anyways, Florida is it's chalky, but they're probably the second best overall team in the tournament in my view, with the way they're playing right now, just behind Duke, or it's probably 1A, 1B. So it's hard to pick against them. As badly as I would want to take St. John's to go to a Final Four out of this region, they do have their warts that can come through and really hurt them in tournament time. Number one is free throw shooting. Number two is three-point shooting. St. John's can struggle with both. They survive that in the Big East because of their superior athleticism, their grit, and their coaching, quite frankly. But you look at three-point shooting, 338th in the country, only 30.4%. They're shooting it better lately. You also look at free throw shooting under 70%. It's a great story, you know, obviously 25 years in the making. Great story for Rick Pitino, who I love dearly. But I'm not convinced that a team that does that is going to be able to survive multiple teams that are just as good as them, just as athletic as them, and can force them to be jump shooters throughout the tournament. There weren't a ton of teams in the Big East that could match St. John's athleticism. You saw it against Creighton, right? Creighton has length with Kalkbrenner, et cetera, but like guards like Ashworth and them, they're just not super athletic. And the way to beat Creighton always has been with athleticism. So I personally think that I'm just not convinced that I can trust St. John's to win, 4 or 5 games against multiple teams who can match them in athleticism and force them to be jump shooters. Texas Tech, they've been a darling of mine throughout the entire year. And earlier, about a month ago, I did say that I'd probably have at least one bracket with them in the Final Four, regardless of location. I am still going to stick by that. There's a few that I'm going against chalk that I'm probably going to take in at least one. I'm going to take them in the Final Four. Texas Tech has had some injury concerns. I believe everybody or most everybody will be back, but Texas Tech has had a few concerns lately. So number one, their defense, which has been their calling card all year, has really kind of fallen off the table. 53.2% floor percentage over their last 3 games, almost over 50% last 5. So when you're thinking about a 50% floor percentage, when you're letting your opponent score a point or more on half of their possessions, that ranks almost 260th in the nation for college basketball. You just can't have that in the NCAA tournament. You just can't do those things and hope to go on a long run. I don't think they'll have many issues with Wilmington, specifically because they don't really foul that much. They don't put teams on the line a ton. And the way to beat the way to beat for Wilmington to win is to get to the free throw line, because Texas Tech does have superior athleticism on the wing. They also have a distinct size advantage, etc. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm positive Texas Tech will beat Wilmington. After that, I got to be honest with you, I can see them going one of two ways. I can see them going on a run and going deep and possibly even making it to a Final Four, or I can also see them, to be totally honest, going out in the second round. McCaslin lost last year in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Relatively new to the big team, big stage in NCAA. I hope he succeeds because I like him as a coach. But like I said, Texas Tech has shown some warts lately. They've kind of had some. They've kind of had been more exposed than I would like to see. So the rest of the teams in the bracket, as far as who could beat Florida, I think that Maryland could give them a game, especially if Maryland is making jump shots. Maryland, as you saw when they put up, they could have put up like 125 against Illinois and then really struggled with Michigan the next day. That was a little concerning for me. They've also had multiple games this year where they've given up close to 80 points. Now, it's because they've gone shot for shot and scored with people, but you heard what I said about Alabama. Maryland's not as bad because their defensive metrics overall are much, much better, but it still gives me concern, especially with the little quad that they play in here. As you can see with Memphis, Colorado State, Grand Canyon, all three of those teams can put up a lot of points. And so all it's going to take for Maryland, in my view, is one game where they're misfiring or their jump shooters aren't hitting, and that's it. That's all it takes at this stage. So I would have preferred if Maryland was in a quadrant here with teams that weren't such good jump shooters, especially teams that didn't defend the three very well, or they didn't shoot the three very well, because then they could go shot for shot. They can't do that in this one. So they're going to have to dig in defensively, and they're also going to have to find a variety of ways to score. So not that I'm like bearish on Maryland, I'm just not super high on them for that reason. Rest of the bracket, as far as what I'm looking at in the first round, I talked about it on Spaces, and the more I've thought about Drake and Missouri, I think that one of two things happens. I've kind of landed on. I think that there's still value in the Drake money line. If you can get it over plus 200, that means that they only have to win one out of every 3 times in similar circumstances to be profitable, which I think they could. Do I like, if you gave me an even money play on this game, who would I take? I would take Missouri. Missouri is definitely the more talented team. Missouri has really, really struggled on the road. I've talked about it here. I've talked about it everywhere. Is their home road disparity for shooting is incredible. 59.4% effective field goal percentage at home versus 51.6% away. They only shot 51.6% as well in the Big 12 tournament, or in the SEC tournament, sorry. And they really, really have struggled away from home, where you have a Drake team that's one of the best defensive teams in the country. Yes, strength of schedule plays a factor here, but I think that either Drake wins this game outright or Missouri just beats the hell out of them. And there's really not much in between from my point of view. I don't see many scenarios where it's like a back and forth one possession game and, Missouri gets it in the end. I think Missouri imposes their will and shows that they're the more superior athletic team, or they have some of their road shooting woes and Drake can get just enough points to win. Elsewhere, I'm for sure looking at a total for Memphis and Colorado State. Both these teams make jump shots. Both these teams shoot the ball exceptionally well. So I'm looking for that. As much as I would like to bet against, take a dog here with Oklahoma over UConn, you give Dan Hurley a week to prepare, and I think his team matches up pretty well with OU. So not really looking at anything for that game. I do think UConn wins if that's where you're thinking. And I also think that you can get a total on Maryland Grand Canyon, because Grand Canyon runs the floor very well. They have a lot of athleticism. They get to the rim exceptionally well, so you can get a lot of fouls. So I'm looking for that. Kansas, Arkansas. I'm not betting on Bill Self. Not necessarily sure if I'm betting against him, but I'm not betting on Kansas team, not this squad. And whoever wins that game, I do think that St. John's can handle pretty well in the second round. So that's kind of my overview for this one. Before we go to the last two, just want to say shout out to some people. Flow Creator, good morning. Thanks for joining, my guy. Appreciate you. Luke Murphy, always with us. Appreciate you. Jonathan Matthews, appreciate you as well. He says, I like Drake to win in the first two rounds. Yeah, I mean, I just kind of talked about it. I'm not sure that they would have enough offense to beat Texas Tech. I think that Texas Tech, even if they were still a little banged up, could probably handle them. But defense wins at this stage of the game. I think that we're going to learn a lot about this Drake team. So we're going to learn if their record is inflated and bloated because of the conference and the schedule that they played, or if this defense is the real deal. I can tell you who is the real deal is Bennett Sturts. Bennett Sturts, Drake guard, MVC player of the year, averaging 19.1 points per game. One of the heaviest minutes guy in all of college basketball. He's played 40 plus minutes in 4 of his last 5 games. And the only one he didn't was a blowout against Southern Illinois, where he played 39.5 minutes. So this kid's going to go the distance, and he's built for it as well. So he's the kind of guy where if he can get hot, and he can especially get hot from deep, because he's been a little streaky from the arc. 5 of 7 against Bradley, but then he's also had a few games where he's 2 of 6, 1 of 6, 1 of 5, then 5 of 9, 4 of 4, then 1 of 6. You see where I'm going with this? Just kind of a more streaky shooter. So when you get against a more athletic team, which, not the most athletic guard in the world, you're gonna have to rely on your jump shot. But if he's making jump shots, yes, they definitely can. And then Moneybag Tone, welcome, and good morning to you. All right, onward to the South. So you got number 1 Auburn, number 2 Sparty, number 3 Iowa State, number 4 Texas A&M, and it's kind of become a little trendy here in the early going to pick against Auburn and to say Auburn's cooked and Auburn might be a little bit of a fade because of how poorly they're playing. I'm not going to disagree with you on that one. I don't have Auburn right now in a single Final Four. I might change my mind and maybe stick them in one. I might, but I don't like their path, and I don't like how they're playing right now. I don't like how their offense is right now. I'm just not a fan. And what I've seen with Bruce Pearl coach teams is that at the end of seasons, when it tends to go bad, it doesn't get better. It just stays bad. His teams have been very momentum based. So like the one that made the Final Four when it was in Minneapolis was a team that was absolutely rolling at the end of the year, got hot. His teams that are cold tend to stay cold, and vice versa. And granted, they've been against really good opponents, but Auburn has lost 3 of their last 4. Their only win was a 5-point just grind fest against Ole Miss. And you're starting to see teams, at least in the SEC, scheme for Auburn a little bit better. They're certainly not shooting the 3 as well as they used to. They're certainly not getting as many open shots as they're used to, or as they have before. Auburn, 40th in the country overall in 3-point field goal percentage, but shooting just 32.4% over their last 3. They're actually shooting closer to like 31% over their last 5. And that's just not going to cut it in the NCAA tournament. So for people that are bearish on Auburn, I don't think it's chalky or it's cliche at all. I totally agree with you. Elsewhere in the bracket, it's really, really hard for me to pick against Izzo at this point in the season. I do have Sparty in multiple Final Fours. I think that they'll be reasonably chalky here. But you look at the road that Michigan State has, and the only one of those teams, assuming that everybody, all things equal, and guys play how they should, is the only one that really concerns me is Ole Miss. because like Sosa, I'm a big Chris Beard fan. I think that Ole Miss actually matches up relatively well with Michigan State. If it actually happens to come to that, especially because Michigan State is they rotate in a ton of guys. They really have like 8 starters on their team, and they just mix and match lineups. I like Beard's ability to scheme for them. I also like their ability to take care of the ball. They're 3rd in the country in lowest turnover percentage, and that's pretty typical of a Chris Beard team. Very, very smart, very heady, takes care of the ball, and don't beat themselves. And those are the kinds of teams that can give Michigan State some problems, because Michigan State, while it's been a little bit better recently, their Achilles has been shooting jump shots. They're 327th in the country in shooting the 3 for the season at 30.8. Again, it's been better recently, but all it takes is one off night or one off game in a tournament like this, and it could be the end. And then elsewhere in the bracket, I want, I really, really, really want I wanted Yale to get a better matchup, because with Yale's size and some of their wing athleticism, I think that there are teams where they could give problems to. Texas A&M is not one of them. I personally think that Texas A&M can beat the living shit out of Yale. I actually might be looking at an alt line on A&M. A&M has the size, they have the length, and they force turnovers. And those are 3 things that all 3 of those things Yale needs to be competitive, and they don't have it. They do not have it in their opponent for anything. It's a really, really bad matchup. I talked about how VCU and BYU got a bad matchup. I think that Yale might have even gotten it worse. This is just a terrible matchup for them. So Michigan, UC San Diego, I already see it in the comments. I already see it in the comments. And for those that don't know, what's up, Tony? That's my son, Tony, and UC San Diego going to the Sweet 16. I agree, bud. I agree completely. I agree 100%. I think that UC San Diego can for sure can beat Michigan. This line is set very, very suspect. It opened at 2.5, which for a 5-12 matchup for a team that just won a power conference tournament is very, very suspect against a team playing in its first NCAA tournament. First time the coach has been there, first time the kids have been there. It's very, very suspect to me. So extremely suspect to me. I am almost positive I'm going to run on the UC San Diego money line. And I think that UC San Diego, one thing that A&M defense thrives on is taking care of the ball. So they are one of the top teams in the country in both forcing turnovers and taking care of the ball. A&M's defense relies on forcing turnovers. They have the size down low to match up with A&M. So there's a very, very realistic path for UC San Diego to the Sweet 16. A&M, I think, is going to be much tougher, but I think that they can get there. The other thing that kills Michigan all year, it's killed them all season, and I've said it over and over again, if you want a team that's built to beat Michigan, you look for a team that forces turnovers, because Wolverines been a little bit better recently, but 328th in the country. They're turning the ball over once every 5 possessions. You can't do that in the NCAA tournament. Dusty Mays coaching, Vlad Golden's size, all that stuff aside, you can't do that in the NCAA tournament and hope to advance. You can't turn the ball over 20 times a game. You just can't do it. You can't turn the ball over usually 15 times a game and hope to win. So UC San Diego is a team that is very, very custom built to beat Michigan. Elsewhere, Louisville, Creighton. This is a pretty easy Louisville spot for me. I just don't know how I'm going to play it yet. Louisville is very, very custom built to beat Creighton. Creighton struggles with athletic teams. Creighton struggles with teams that have athleticism on their wings and in their guards. That's what Louisville has. I personally think that Louisville is very underseeded. I think they got jobbed by the committee in a number of ways, especially with their seeding. I actually thought that they would be like a 6, maybe a 7, but definitely not an 8, having to play a 1 in the second round. But part of that could be biased on Pat Kelsey by my part, because I love me some Pat Kelsey. So And then Marquette in New Mexico. I talked about this on Spaces, and it just rings so true. Ever since Shaka Smart took VCU to the Final Four, it's been what, 15 years now. He's had, I believe, 8 first round exits in years he's made the tournament. Unfortunately, because I like Shaka Smart, he has not had great success in the NCAA tournament ever since that VCU Final Four run. He especially hasn't had a good run in the tournament coaching in power conferences with big time programs. So you look at his time at Texas, you have out in the first round, didn't make the tournament, out in the first round, didn't make the tournament. Next year was COVID. Out in the first round, out in the first round, out in the second round, made the Sweet 16 last year with Marquette as a 3 seed. And now we come to this year where they are probably seated right where they should be at a 7 seed. So haven't decided if I'm going to play this one yet. In multiple brackets, I have New Mexico. New Mexico has the athleticism on the wing to take care of Cam and some of the guards that Marquette has. And New Mexico has the ability to speed teams up as well. For a team like Marquette that doesn't turn the ball over very much, even if you force a few more turnovers, you can be successful. But as much as I love Shaka Smart, man, he's ever since he went to Texas, he is, I think, 2-6 in the NCAA tournament. And again, 4 first-round exits since leaving VCU, and 1 year where the tournament wasn't held, 2 years where he'd failed to make it. Not a whole lot of success for Shaka. So, and the other one that I haven't decided on yet, I'm going to dig a little bit more. I wouldn't sleep on Lipscomb. Not necessarily to win the game, but the 14.5, this has gone down already. It opened at 16 in some places. It's gone down already. Lipscomb's a very, very complete team. To me, they're actually one of the best mid-majors in the country. And I think that especially if they're making jump shots, I think that they can negate some of Iowa State's athleticism. I think that this is also one where I might look at a Lipscomb team total over. So not that I really expect them to win the game, but don't sleep on Lipscomb. I personally don't see a lot of paths to Iowa State having a blowout here. So onward to the last one, the Midwest region. And I saved this one for last because it's my least favorite bracket, and I'm going to spend the least amount of time on it. 1 Houston, 2 Tennessee, 3 Kentucky, 4 Purdue. I hate this region. I hate this region so much. Houston probably has to be the favorite to come out of here. It's hard for me to take Rick Barnes in this spot, even to make a Final Four, especially not against a team that they might face in the final that has as much size and athleticism as they do in Houston. Elsewhere in the bracket, I personally think I'm not a big fan of betting against Mark Few in the first round. So I think if you're filling out a bracket, for me, that was a pretty easy zag spot. Georgia's had been kind of up and down this season, but Mark Few with a week to prepare. And also, even though Georgia has size, Georgia is like top 40 in overall size, and they have their bigs are a little more plotting. And you have a guy like Ike who outweighs Georgia's starting big by almost 30 pounds. Even though he's 3 inches shorter, he still has a ton of athleticism, can step out on the wing, take him off the dribble. Ike, I'm looking at some Ike props because I think that he could feast in this game. And I think that he could get to the free throw line a ton in this game. So, and Ike for a big man is a very good free throw shooter. So I'm not betting against Mark Few here. The rest of it, to be honest, like I said, this bracket's just kind of bleh. I wouldn't be surprised if my lowest number of plays that I give out either here or to VIP come from this region. Clemson, McNeese. I think McNeese is going to be a sexy upset pick. I don't see it happening. The teams that McNeese can play well and handle well against are teams that don't have size and or a lot of athleticism. Clemson has both. Clemson is big, and they're big and they're athletic and they have a few guys that can shoot from deep. And those are the types of teams that can give a team like McNeese that doesn't really have a lot of like overall size, but they kind of everybody is in that like 6'5" to 6'8" range. It's a traditional Will Wade team where you just have a bunch of 6'5" to 6'8" athletes and you run the hell out of the ball and you attack the rim and you're up in people's faces. Clemson is the kind of team that can handle that. Clemson, top 80 in overall average height. They have multiple 6'10" kids, and their 6'10" kids are big, 6'11", 245, and then another 6'8", 240. So they have the athleticism to match McNeese. And when you match McNeese's athleticism and you don't let them just get out in transition and run it down your throat, it can be a long game. I'm not looking at McNeese in any brackets, to be honest with you, which kind of pains me because I love watching them play. I like Will Wade, and I was really hoping that they would get a better draw. I was actually hoping, to be honest with you, I was actually hoping that McNeese might get Michigan because I think that they could handle Michigan. I was kind of hoping that McNeese might even move up to an 11 seed and get like a BYU, somebody like that, that isn't as hyper athletic and big as Clemson is. So another team I could potentially see coming out of this bracket is if they're making jump shots, I can see if consistently I can see Kentucky maybe. I've made it a point not to bet on Matt Painter. There's multiple brackets where I've taken High Point to win that game outright. Might be a little Matt Painter bias on my part. I don't care. He's burned me too many times. So if he's going to burn me this year, it's not going to be with me backing him. I don't have Purdue going very far. I certainly don't have them getting past Clemson, even if they win. So, but this is Houston's bracket to lose, or Houston's region to lose. This is probably the one where you can also potentially see a lot of chaos. There's not a lot of teams outside of Houston, in my view, that are that much discernibly better than others. So I think that you could see some upsets. I wish that the Zags were down on the 7-10 line because I could very easily see them beating Tennessee and making a run to the regional final. So just kind of sucks for them that they get Houston in the second round, and Houston's length is the kind of defense that can handle the motion high offense that few runs. So that's going to do it for the overall regions. I'm just going to give out two quick plays and then we'll kind of get out of here. Just a few more. Mom Who Bets, good morning. And thank you as always for joining and trying to rob FanDuel, always with us. Appreciate you, my guy. So the two plays for this evening, one is in the NCAA tournament, one is not. And so for the one that is in the NCAA tournament, going to go to San Diego State, North Carolina. Kicks off at 9:10 Eastern on True TV. North Carolina opened at about a 2.5 3-point favorite. It's now up to 4.5 in spots with a total of 142.5. I'm going to skip all of the debate. I've talked myself senseless about should UNC be in, should they not be in? I don't care, whatever. They're with their AD being in the committee and getting a bonus and all that stuff. I don't care about that stuff anymore. Okay. We are where we are and they're in the tournament and there's nothing that anybody can say that will do anything about it. So now that they're in, now we have to figure out how to play them. And as far as the actual side goes, I don't really have a take on this one. I saw earlier, I think it was Ben, I know, had said UNC tonight. And I would be hard pressed to disagree with you because this is a team that SDSU is a team they actually match up with relatively well. So what I'm looking for on this one is a team total, and I'm looking for San Diego State, and I'm going with the team total under. Team total under 69.5. You can under 69, under 69.5, under somewhere in that range is just fine. Here's why. Number one is that while San Diego State does have a decent size advantage against the Tar Heels, you can see it right here, 306 in average height versus 51. You also have San Diego State's one of their better big men, especially defensively, and who has provided a lot of offense before he got hurt, Magoon Guath, is just coming back from injury. So will he come back to pre-injury form, or will it take him a few games because he's missed a few games? You also have a North Carolina team that plays a lot of drop coverage. And so when you play drop coverage, what you do is it's essentially what it sounds like, where you sag guys off and you force teams to beat you shooting jump shots, more specifically 3-point jump shots and pull-up jump shots. So you look at San Diego State and you look at their national ranking and you see it's not the greatest, 32.8% from deep, about top half or so in mid-range jump shots. Their mid-range game has not been that great lately either. So their bigs do play a lot of drop coverage, and San Diego State's guards are not that great at making pull-up jump shots, especially with the size disparity. I would expect a ton of drop coverage tonight from the heels. And who can hit off the dribble for San Diego State? Well, Nick Boyd can, and BJ Davis is their best shooter, but he does a lot of stuff off of the ball and for spot up shooters, not really so good off the dribble. And that's where I think the advantage comes in for the heels, is that the heels force you to shoot off of the dribble. Teams that have done well against them and have put up a bunch of points have guys that can make jump shots off the dribble. San Diego State doesn't really have that. San Diego State is going to have to attack the rim. And when you attack the rim against a team that plays drop coverage, you can draw fouls. Now, there's a couple problems with that. Number one is SDSU sub 200 in getting to the free throw line. North Carolina that doesn't foul a ton, but even if they do, San Diego State has had problems at the free throw line. They're 334th overall in the country. They have multiple guys that are shooting under 60% or under 65% from the line. So all of that, to me, especially the fact that if San Diego State is going to have a chance in this game, they're going to have to dictate the pace. North Carolina does do a great job of getting out and running. They are 48th in the country in pace. San Diego State 267th. Obviously, with the Jim Dutcher team, they play very slow, very methodical, very plodding, and they're going to have to keep doing that in order to stay pace in this game. If they get into a running game with North Carolina, then I actually might look to take North Carolina live on whatever line I can possibly get. But if San Diego State's going to slow the game down, as I would expect them to, based on their style and how they're going to compete in this game, what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to use some high ball screens, and then they're going to have to get their guards off of those screens for elbow to mid-range jump shots to draw the bigs that play drop coverage out, at which point then they can look to go more straight line to the rim. So it's not necessarily that I think that North Carolina is an overall better team than San Diego State. It's just that North Carolina has several advantages on defense and athletically that San Diego State does not. The only thing that I'm looking for here is from a rebounding perspective is that if Guath is back, I also am interested to see how he's going to do on the boards, because he's not so much of a scorer as he is like a tip rebounder. What I mean by tip rebounder is ball comes off, you just get a hand on it, back tip it out for your guards to potentially get a spot up jump shot. So they need a lot of second chances, and North Carolina, as you can see, 54th in the country in preventing offensive rebounds, 27.1. North Carolina bigs are more muscular than they are up and down lengthwise, tall height-wise. So for me, that all adds up to San Diego State probably not having the best offensive night. So the team total under 69.5 would be the first play. All right, moving on to the second and the last one, which would be the NIT. And so for this one is actually pretty simple for me. You have Oklahoma State and Wichita State in first round of NIT. First round of NIT, if you don't know, teams, the higher seed host that game. And this one is a pretty easy over for me. This one this one opened at 152 or 153. I think it's up to 154.5 in some spots. I don't care. This is an over spot. Not only is Oklahoma State more offensive minded, they're another team that has just shown zero interest in playing defense over the last month or so. They're 304th in effective field goal defense, as you see here, 243rd in three-point defense. But the big thing is Wichita State gets to the line a good amount. They're not the best jump shooters in the world, but they get to the line a lot, to the tune of over 20 free throws a game, even on the road. And you have an Oklahoma State defense that has just fallen off the table and allows opponents to shoot that many as well. Wichita State, decent free throw shooting team, multiple guys that shoot at 75% or better. And you also have a great home road disparity for Oklahoma State on offense. So you also have a great home road disparity for Oklahoma State on offense, especially shooting on their home floor. It's something that we looked to bet in VIP quite a bit, actually. And it's something where they shoot better on their home floor. They shoot the almost 4% better on their home floor. They shoot the three better, almost 3% on their home floor. They get to the line a ton at home. You can see that they're 18th overall in the country in free throws attempted over field goals attempted, and that goes up exponentially. Their home free throws attempted on their home floor, their free throws attempted per game, 25.9. That is one of the top 10 marks in the country, and they also have multiple guys that make them. So you add all that up for me, and you add in an Oklahoma State team that has just even just looking at them has just shown a complete lack of interest in playing defense and being anything other than let's get the ball and let's go down and score. Their pace has picked up. Their average shot clock usage has gone down. So for me, I look at this one with a lot of points. So for me, over 155.5 is the final play. All right. So just got a few more. Luke Murphy asking, do you think UNC can cover the spread? They can. I would prefer to get it closer to the pregame one, though. It's been bet up a little bit. I'm not sure about outside of a possession. I think that they can, but can they? Yes. And there's actually more worlds where people think where UNC just beats the hell out of San Diego State. There really is. And so then lastly, I'm thinking to take about SD on the spread, but I think UNC wins. Yeah, the spread just was one that I kind of crossed off the list right away just because of the movement on it. I'd much rather see if I can get it better in game. I do think that North Carolina, I don't try to judge teams' motivations, but, you'd be blind and deaf if you didn't hear all the noise about they don't belong and they got in and because of riggage and all that stuff, blah, 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 right? So I don't get too much into that stuff. Like I said, I've talked that to death. Do I think they belong in the tournament? No, not really. But doesn't matter what I think. I'm not on the committee. So we are where we are. They play tonight, and they have an opponent where they match up very, very well with. So spread, Luke, I'm probably not going to touch. If I can get it within a possession, then I might be a little more interested. But I do think that they can definitely limit San Diego State offensively. So that's going to do it. There are a few other NIT games tonight that I am looking at. So, and then for the 16 seed game, this game's going to be ugly. You got two mediocre offenses, two teams that misfire all the time. I'm probably, if you gave me a free play, I would probably take the over for this one just because the defenses are just as bad. But man, it's hard to trust teams that shoot that bad. When you think about that, St. Francis won its conference tournament championship 49-46. Just an ugly game. I'm not really looking to take anything for either of those two 16 seeds. So thanks everybody for joining. Appreciate y'all as always. Please give it a like, subscribe to Daily Bread Network on YouTube and get instant notifications of when we're on. We'll be back tomorrow and throughout the tournament with Sosa, and best of luck if you're tailing. We'll see you tomorrow.